Two things I took out of The Last Dance that I wanted to go through with you. One, can we please bring back the two thin gold chains? It's a good look.
I don't know if we need to see that. It's funny. It showed it. I'm not sure people realize that was actually during the dunk contest. It wasn't during a game. He didn't wear gold chains during the game. It was during the dunk contest. And it was actually pretty controversial.
Yeah.
It was one of the reasons the older players didn't like. That's when Mike was young and rebellious. And he shows up at the dunk contest. In the first couple of rounds, he's got his gold chains on. He's wearing his Air Jordan warm-ups instead of his Bulls team warm-ups like everyone else is wearing. And so that was something that was when he was young and brash and a little bit rebellious. And that was something that rubbed the older players the wrong way.
And I know that, the narrative over time with the band shoes and all those things, like, obviously it's folklore at this point with the Jordan 1s and him sort of breaking the mold each time with a new sneaker. But since you were there and talking to him, was he active in those decisions? Was he wanting to push the envelope?
With the sneakers, I think he just wanted it to reflect his story. And I think that was something that Kobe Bryant took from him. I think that was Nike that was more rebellious and trying to really play up that element. But I don't think that was necessarily Jordan really trying to upset the boat. If you look at it, and I really urge people to read Wright Thompson's story that's on ESPN.com, Jordan's way of winning was to outwork you, not to make a statement, not to be provocative, but to simply beat you by working harder than you.
Yeah, and I think that did come across. And the second thing that I took out of the series is something that I guess I've never thought of, and it's that in between his freshman year at North Carolina and the summer games run, clearly he got a lot better. And I just keep thinking that kind of escalation, that kind of growth isn't really a 2020 thing. We know about Kobe and LeBron and Zion. We know about them basically since middle school. And there's not a lot of surprise anymore as to who's going to be the first pick, with these names that get thrown around even when they're kids. Why is that?
There's so much more attention. There's social media, their entire social media accounts devoted to finding the next person. Recruiting used to be a real small niche, and now that's something that's widely followed. So these guys are tracked from 8th grade on. Michael Jordan wasn't on the cover of Sports Illustrated in high school. LeBron James was.
Right.
Zion Williamson had hundreds of thousands of YouTube followers, or Instagram followers, I should say, before he even set foot on Duke. So they're identified earlier. The Ball family, for example, and maybe they don't always live up to the hype. And that's one thing, if you take LeBron in consideration, he came in with much more hype than Michael Jordan did. And the fact that he's been at the very least able to live up to it, if not surpass it, speaks volumes about him. He had more pressure on him coming into the NBA than Michael Jordan.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you can remember, obviously this isn't a very obscure stat at this point, but remember, Kobe Bryant was traded at the draft.
Yeah, and was drafted like 13th.
Yeah, and LeBron didn't have, obviously, that kind of leniency on him. And you watch that Jordan doc, and I think a few times in my mind I went, oh boy, the LeBron version of this is going to be just brutal.
Well, it's going to be different, though, because we've seen so much of LeBron. He's put so much on the cameras. He's been on camera since he was in high school.
Yeah.
And he made his free agency decision on camera. So there's not as much mystery. Yeah. And that's part of what was appealing about this, was even though Jordan had been interviewed and shown and done commercials and was so much embedded in the culture, there were still some areas of mystery. We still were able to see some things that were new that we hadn't seen before.